Hello and welcome to this training. Today we are talking quite specifically about how to communicate effectively to your team when they are working remotely. Now, we have the luxury of being able to communicate on very different platforms. So we have emails and SMSs and chat groups, WhatsApp, Facebook groups, all of these different platforms that we have to be able to communicate with your team. However, there are a few things that I'd like to show you in terms of ways to be able to streamline those communications during this time. So that is the goal, to be able to streamline all of your communications that's going out to your team, your admin team, your contractors, your employees, and to some extent, maybe even your clients. So I use a platform called Hassl, Hassl. This is not necessarily a project management tool in the same respect that you would use something like Asana and Trello. It is a project management tool, sort of, but it's mainly a to-do list and a really great way to communicate back and forth to people in your practice. So we have here the inside of Hassl. One of the reasons why I strongly encourage people to use Hassl is it's Australian. So it has been created here in Melbourne, over in Brunswick, by some really great, amazing human beings. Two, the platform, because it's Australian, is charged in US dollars. So when you go to pay for it, the amount of money it costs from month to month doesn't vary because you have the consistency of having it charged in US dollars. So that's one of the other things that I really love about the product. Now with Hassl, it's Hassl. I love the coloring. As you'll know, it's very similar to my brand color, but yeah, that is just serendipitous. That is nothing really to do with why I love Hassl. So this is when you sign up for the free version. There's a free version that you can use without paying anything at all. The paid version, I think, is $6 a month per user. So it's incredibly affordable. When you log in, you're going to see your tasks here. You can start new projects, new chats. You can invite all of your team members. It also gives you project progresses. You've got different folders here, new projects, new folders. You can invite your people. And on your projects, you can invite specific people to different projects as well. So this is really, really easy to use. One of the great things I love is that after you've invited some people, you can start chatting with them. So that's something that's really important. Now, I recommend using something like this to communicate back and forth to people instead of emails. It's one platform that you can communicate to your team instead of SMS, because that gets lost very easily. With emails, things are just overwhelming, so I don't necessarily recommend emails. I think we should minimize the amount of emails that we send on a day-to-day basis, regardless if your team is working in the office or not. And you have the added luxury, I use that a little bit sarcastically, of being able to give tasks to your team members verbally, which means it gets lost, or it's only as good as that moment, or until it's done, or until it's forgotten, and or with sticky notes. That happens to everyone. So I recommend really working toward implementing Hassl as a way of communicating with your team. So what you do in here is you have your active folders. Now you can change these folders, you can make new ones, you can delete whatever you don't like. I like to keep them this way, so we can move different projects in under different aspects. I like the templates one because if you're doing things that are replicatable, so for example, onboarding or training, you can create a template of to-dos within Hassl and then replicate it internally, share it with your contractor or your employee, and you can tick off their training, and you then consistently have that template, so you know you're onboarding and training people the same way. So that's what's really great about the templates. Now, if we go into active, I'm going to create a new project. And I'm just going to title this project Working from Home. Now, we can put a start and end date if we really want. So if whatever you're working on with your team has an end date, you can put an end date. You can change the parent folder. So that means you can eventually move it into completed, or you can move it into templates or replicate it and move it out of templates. If you're familiar with Gantt charts, it provides a Gantt chart. Time tracking, which I really love, because then you can keep track of any of the administration tasks that you give to people, or any task that you give to people, and how long it will take them to do it. All they need to do is click the button, and then you can restrict access if you'd like. You can decide what the view looks like, and we can come back to this as well. And you can grant access. Oh, only in the paid version. Sorry, I have the paid version actually. So you can grant access to specific people in the business version. So let's just create this. Now this project, Working from Home, is, there are no milestones under it. Now let's just, for the sake of it, just create a new one. And maybe it's onboarding admin. All right, and we're going to share. So now we have our two different projects here. And we're going to do Working from Home. So maybe the milestone, I would recommend, as you have a milestone, just like you would in the office, you have opening procedures. And you would have closing procedures. Now, my recommendation in terms of communicating with your staff, your administration team members, and maybe even your contractors, is to reshuffle what are the opening and procedures and closing procedures look like for them now that they're working from home. And maybe what you'd like to do in the opening procedures, you would like your admin to send email for tasks of the day. Now this might seem a bit micromanaging, but without having the ability to see and ask on a consistent basis, we really need everyone to communicate to you. And we need to be able to make sure that they can alleviate your mind around the tasks that they're doing. So one of the other things too, I like to always have is a morning bump and maybe an afternoon bump. Now a bump is really just a 15-minute opportunity for everyone to come together, say how they're doing, say if they need any issue, if they have any issues they need addressed, or any roadblocks or barriers, and say something good that's happening in that time. So you can actually do a bump by just asking everyone to come on and have access to the chat function here. So that's one thing that's really great in terms of, some of the aspects that you have. Now, in this one, I only have myself, so you're not going to be able to see that chat function, but you can invite people, you can create teams that are sitting in here. But every time I am thinking, and let's just add a new one here, brain dump. The other one might be updated Medicare/MBS items. So, you can put some information in here that doesn't necessarily need to go into your standard operating procedures, because this information will go away quite quickly after when we return and resume to normal. So updating Medicare items and MBS items. So maybe what you want to put in is so COVID codes. And then the due date, I actually really like this idea. The due date for this is that they expire on the 20th of September. So we can put some in that they're active. You can customize these, I think, in the paid version. Oh no, you can do it here too. That's great. So you can customize them here. So this is in progress because these are still valid. You can assign people to the tasks. But when you click in here, we have some really great features in here. So firstly, I can write a note, effective 1st April 2020. I can put whatever I want. I can hyperlink those codes. Let's see, I think I have an MBS. Fact sheet here. So I can hyperlink this. This is all temporary stuff, but this is important information that people need right now. And they need to just have one central place to get that information from you. So if I click save, I've now hyperlinked that. When I go to post the comment, I can actually see that that's a hyperlink. If I click on it, it comes in here. So I can create a database of information for my employees or contractors to access. Now, if this information is no longer valid, I can update this here by editing it. Or I can, if I want to, I can actually just delete it. I can do a bunch of different things in there. The other thing too is if I had more than one person in here, I could tag them, which then will give me a comment up here and show me in the notification that I have been tagged in something. I also really like this because, and I can see that it's not in the free version, but in the paid version, you can not only upload files, which is really great, but you have a third tab here, which are to-dos. So for example, if we're in the working from home and we want to do the bump, under the paid version, the to-do, we can click on it and there are just, we can add as many to-dos underneath that we want. So in order to prepare for the bump, you need to be available at 9:10 in the morning. Make sure you have had your coffee and you bring your coffee with it. We're using this particular link to come in for, the bump virtual session link. We can put that information in here so that people can always have access to it. It's not lost in emails. I think that's one of the most important things is that we can communicate effectively in one system. And it's very easy to have it open and not think about it. Now, people use different aspects like Slack and, like I mentioned earlier, Asana or Trello, those types of things, where this is a really great hybrid of all of those products, is that Slack is a really great communication tool if you understand how to use it. And Trello and Asana are really great project management tools. Again, if you understand how to use them, this is a hybrid of all of those. So we can communicate effectively to our team within Hassl, and we can also do project management within the same platform. Now, one of the things I also really like is that I can change the organization. So I have a number of different organizations in here. This is a to-do list that I have with my girlfriend. We have a haven't launched it yet, but we have a podcast series that we've created that's sitting in here. This is the one I've created here for you guys in terms of training. And then this is my actual business account. And you can see in there that I've upgraded to the business and I don't have the standard package. So I've got a few other features in there that work really, really well. You can also search things up here. You can, it's just a really, really great tool in terms of communicate. One of the things that allows you to do is to communicate often, but not at random. So when you're SMSing and when you're sending emails out, you're consistently communicating with your staff willy-nilly, whenever you want, really. You shoot off a text, or you send off an email, or you give them a call, and it's miscombobulating when there's a lot of information that's coming, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm already overwhelmed. I don't know how much information I need to hear. What's relevant, what's not relevant. By being able to communicate often, you're putting it into a specific platform. You're now also able to take that a step further and streamline those communications by having some specific set times that you're communicating. And it makes it a lot easier and less overwhelming. For you, you can do a brain dump into Hassl. Your contractors or employees can take a look at that information as soon as it's available, or whenever they've blocked out some time to do that. You can put some structures and boundaries into their time, their the days they're working with you, and that'll just having that knowledge and information is a bit freeing for your contractors and your administration team. Sorry. And the other thing with it is, as this information changes, you can archive it and you can get rid of it. You don't need to, let's see, so if we edit this, I spelled procedures wrong, that's beautiful. If we, where is archive? So if we click this button here, it's saying, are you sure you want to archive this? Yes, now it removes it from there. So what's happened is only the content that's relevant in that moment. And as things have been changing, and as you're kind of getting used to working and being structured in terms of working from home, it's ever evolving. It's overwhelming and phenomenal, really, the amount of stuff that's changing. So I recommend in its entirety that what you do is streamline it as much as possible. Communicate with some sort of logic and not as much emotion, and a lot of planning. So asking people to be fluid and agile as the information changes, as the content gets updated, as life changes, as people are readjusting to what does it mean to be working from home during this time. So I hope that's been useful. If you have any questions or you would like more information, please feel free to reach out and ask. But in the meantime, I hope that's been useful. We'll talk soon. Bye.